Good evening, Mr. Bond fans, and welcome to the penultimate video in this series looking at the James Bond deleted material that has been released as of 2020. Today we are going to be looking at Diamonds Are Forever, which is, I believe, the earliest film in the series that we actually have these kind of completed deleted scene materials for. As I've said in all of the other videos in this series, I have seen these deleted scenes before, but it's been some time since I've watched them through. So some of them I have very good memories of for this film in particular, others not so much. Funny enough, like, these are deleted scenes that I actually feel quite nostalgic for. Like, it's so weird. Like, these were the ones, like, because these were on the Diamonds Are Forever Special Edition DVD back in, like, the year 2000, around that era, and at that point I was like 10, 11 years old, and I'd gotten all the Bond films on VHS, and I was kind of like, I'm not gonna, you know, spend my hard-earned pocket money buying the films again on this new format. But the first one that I did buy was, well, the first one was Die Another Day, but then after that, it was Diamonds Are Forever, on the basis of, like, looking at the back of the box and seeing deleted scenes. Like, back then, like, the idea of seeing deleted scenes just completely blew my mind. I know that this feels like such a strange thing to say in this day and age, where you can just come on YouTube, for example, and just see them. Back then, it was such a big deal, and that kind of got me on the DVD bandwagon, collecting all of the films, obviously. So yeah, it feels quite weird to be nostalgic over, like, DVD bonus features, but I kind of am with this particular set. Anyway, unlike the majority of the videos in this series, I don't think we have any kind of director introduction or on these, which is a shame. I normally quite like to hear from, like, John Glenn, for example, because it kind of puts the scene into context and they can give you some information on, like, why it was cut from the final film and all that kind of stuff. But with this, I guess we just have to kind of infer what went down. But with all that being said, let's begin.
Okay, come on, ladies. Let's bet it up. Get some money and be somebody. $1,000 on the black.
Right on.
All right, come on, let's go. Put it down, baby. There you go. Over here, and give me $1,000 on the black. There you go.
Hiya, sweetheart.
Hey, Bert, how are you, baby?
Good. Say, I had a call from Mr. White, said you hadn't signed your contract yet. What's the matter? You got a problem?
No, not too big a problem. Just some money, that's all. Now, you know what amazes me? That a man that's a multi-billionaire living up in that fortress can't come to terms. Now, look, you're the man that I work for, really. Do me a favor, go up and talk to him for me, will you?
You gotta be kidding. I run this place for him, and even I haven't seen him for 3 years. Will you take a look at that?
Well, wow. They ain't never gonna get a cake big enough to put him on top of. Hey, wait a minute. What happened to the chips? I lost.
Okay, so that's the famous Sammy Davis Jr. deleted scene. I think it's quite a well-known one. I think Sammy Davis Jr. is, like, a image of him is in the final film. I think when Bond's flicking through a magazine, we do actually see Sammy Davis Jr. This is such an unusual thing to be talking about in a Bond context. Like, this kind of gratuitous celebrity cameo is not a common thing, and that's all this plays as. I guess we get a little bit of extra information on Willard White, and I like that it kind of sets up that Bond stands out in this environment. Like, when I was a kid watching this film, you know, Bond in a tuxedo, everyone else is sort of, like, in suit jackets and stuff. I just figure it's, you know, everyone's kind of smartly dressed, but obviously Bond has overly dressed a tuxedo, is perhaps a bit too formal for this kind of setting. So, Sammy Davis Jr. taking off his glasses and making that quip about putting Bond on a cake, you know, it highlights that, it calls some attention to it. I don't think it's a good enough gag, and I'm glad it wasn't in the film, and I think that, you know, Sammy Davis and Burt Saxby, the actor, I don't think either of them are terribly good actors. I think they're both quite wooden, and this would have felt like a really weird aside had this been kept in the film. I think I'm glad it was released, because I'm guessing that Sammy Davis Jr. was someone's friend, and you know, it's like, oh yeah, get Sammy in for a scene. You know, that'll be fun. I'm glad that it was cut. Moving on.
Shady Tree.
Shady, we just adore your act.
What taste, style, and we have a few suggestions.
Critics and material I don't need. I haven't changed my act in 40 years.
Ah, but this one's surefire.
That's the oldest guy.
And this one will kill you.
Come on, fellas, a popping gun and squirting fly routine. You gotta be kidding.
Two's company, Mr. Wynn.
And Tree was a crowd, Mr. Kid.
Huh. Okay, I kind of like that. As a big fan of Mr. Winter, Mr. Kid that I am, anything with those two is just... And I do like the Tree's a crowd gag. I think that's quite a nice line. It's obviously it's an extension of what we see in the film, where we just see them go into Shady Tree's dressing room, and then the next time we see Shady Tree, he's dead. We don't know how he's died or anything like that. So in the film, I think it actually works in a more ominous kind of way, as is often the case with films like that. What is left up to your imagination is often more gruesome or mysterious, interesting than what if you actually see something in a film. And this is an example of that. It's like him getting shot in the back is, you know... And some sparks come out of that gun. My God, I'm surprised that his, like, dressing gown didn't catch on fire with some of the stuff coming out of there. And Shady's death wail and the kind of falling to the floor's a bit hammy. But, yeah, the film's probably better off without this scene in there. But as a big fan of these two characters, I like that we have it available to watch. The Class of Vegas.
Uh-oh. No good.
Hey, I didn't think you could really do that. I bet they charge you for it.
I was under the impression you were paying.
Well, it was still a very classy thing to do. Hey, listen, you're not a knight or anything like that, are you?
No, I'm afraid not. I'm your commoner.
But don't feel bad. It doesn't make any difference to me. I'm a Democrat. Hi, Myrna. Hey, Peter, you had enough of this?
Aren't you enjoying yourself?
Oh, well, sure, but what I mean is, well, you've been so great and everything. I just wanted to thank you properly, you know. Well, maybe I could walk you to your door at least?
Insist.
They must have only just sat down and she's already like, right, off, let's go to your room. I mean, he'd only just tasted the wine. It is really nice seeing more of Lana Wood as Plenty O'Toole. Yeah, I mean, she suffers the most from that character suffers the most from this deleted material, I'll say that much. I think she's great in the moment. I kind of like... I do like seeing Bond all dressed up in this kind of crass environment, and the wine isn't good enough and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of playing in some of the stuff that we get in Fleming, where Bond goes to America, and while he is in a lot of instances, he enjoys going to an all-American diner and having a big meaty sandwich and all that kind of stuff. Here they're playing more into the snobbery of it, and like, well, the wine isn't too good, all that kind of stuff. I like that Plenty's line about being a Democrat, that's quite funny. And I like that she knows the harp player, because presumably she spends every weekend at the casino, every day even, you know, trying it on with rich men to con them out of some money. Is the film better off without it? I don't know, actually. I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about this, because I like seeing more of Lana Wood as Plenty, and I guess it doesn't really do anything for the plot. It is purely for seeing more of her character. So in that respect, I suppose that, yes, it probably is better that it isn't in the film. But the moments with her are so brief in the film, and it's literally like, you know, we go away from where her and Bond have met at the tables, and then immediately cut to in Bond's room, the two of them. So I like seeing a bit more interplay between them, actually. Ah, the infamous Plenty returns scene. In the original script, after Plenty O'Toole is thrown into the pool, she returns to 007's room where she discovers Bond and Tiffany together. She finds Tiffany's address, which leads to her death later in the film.
Presumably I'm the condemned man, and obviously you're the hearty breakfast, right?
So that's where we cut in the film, and then this is the new material. Absolutely should have been kept in the film. Like, along with the Gupta scenes from Tomorrow Never Dies, this is like something that I absolutely think should have been kept in the film. Number one, because I think it's kind of an awkward moment in the film, actually, because you go from Bond flicking off the light switch, cut, and then it's him and Tiffany post lovemaking, if you will. Whereas this, you would have a natural scene in between that, so then when you cut to them having, you know, finished, then I think that would work a lot better. But then also it just sets up the whole idea of Tiffany going to Plenty's home later on in the film, and then that's why we see her there dead, because in the film, in the final film as it's cut, that really doesn't make any sense. Here it does. It makes sense that she's got her address and that she goes there, and I think it's ridiculous that this moment wasn't kept in the film for such a massive plot hole. I think the performance is perhaps not that great, particularly when she sees them both in bed and she's already kind of looking in that direction, and then presumably this music is just put in there so it's not completely silent. I can't imagine that there was any looping or anything, but I would have loved to have known what the soundtrack in the final film would have been like if we would have had, like, Sean Connery grunting sex noises as, you know, Plenty looks on. It would have been a really strange moment, but for the plot hole that it creates without it being there, I think it absolutely should have been kept in the final film. Through the alley again. Okay. For years, eagle-eyed observers have noted that Bond's car switches positions during its two-wheel journey through the alley. Now, for the first time, here is the scene as originally shot, with the car exiting on the correct set of wheels. Note the crowds and the police cars in the background, which make the shot unusable. Okay. This is obviously all in the film.
I got you now.
Lean over.
Yep, that's a lot of crowds. Okay, so obviously that's different from in the film version, where they reshot that sequence with the car coming out on a different set of wheels, and they have that awkward insert of the car sort of like tilting that's in the film. The crowds, I think, are a problem throughout that entire car chase sequence, to be perfectly honest. I'm surprised that they let this one sort of bother them so much. I think it's really noticeable that they obviously didn't shut down the entire street in Vegas for it, so there are just crowds of people being held back, and it really lets the sequence down, I think. I guess whatever, they reshot it, that's fine.
I'm Michael Wilson, producer of the James Bond films.
Oh, we have an introduction.
This is a longer version of the scene which appeared in the original Diamonds Are Forever film. While not much content was lost, the scene does illustrate the mercenary nature of the Tiffany Case character. To create this version, we've used none of the footage that appeared in the finished film.
Oh, so we'll have some alternate takes here, I guess.
Darling, why are we suddenly staying in the bridal suite of the White House?
In order to form a more perfect union, darling.
By the way, James, may I call you James finally?
Any particular reason why?
Are they baked?
We've held out on the organization, broken into a government plant, flown a car through an alley sideways, and I haven't even tried to skip town. Peter Franks would be throwing up in the bathtub by now.
Are they literally high through this?
Well, I have been feeling rather queasy lately.
I don't believe you. By the way, James, what's going to happen to me? You did talk to your friend Felix about me, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what did he say?
Something about 20 years to life. It wasn't very important.
20 years to life?
Relax, darling. I'm on top of the situation.
That's easy for you to...
So awkward, the creaking
It's
noises.
easy for you to say. Oh, you're not the one that has to... Oh, James, how many hands do you have? Wait a minute. I must be crazy. This isn't like me at all. I helped to wipe out half the police force of Las Vegas, make enemies of my own people, Willard White, the U.S. government, and now I end up giving away something for nothing.
Well, if it's a matter of simple charity.
I may as well begin at home.
Oh, I did not need to see Sean Connery's bare ass there. Maybe it's a body double? I don't know. Okay, that was a surprising end to that scene. Okay, so that is an extended version of what we have in the film. I much prefer the version that we have in the film. It's much snappier. That whole thing where Tiffany's like, wait a minute, this isn't like me at all. In a way, I kind of like a common criticism of Tiffany Case in that film is that her character does kind of shift. Like, she suddenly goes from being this really tough character to being a bit of a bimbo through much of the second half of the film, and in a way, I kind of like that they call it out there. She's like, oh yes, for the rest of the film, I'm not going to be acting, I'm going to be a different character pretty much. So, in a way, I think that that's kind of like a nice fourth wall breaking moment. Their delivery of lines throughout that scene is really strange. I don't know if they've just taken some substances. I hear what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, so maybe... Lord knows what was going on there. Okay, yeah, that absolutely... no need for that in the film. I don't think it's very funny, or maybe you get a bit more of Tiffany Case's character as a result of it, but I don't think the performances or the writing or anything about it really does any service to the final product. So, Sean Connery's bare behind was not something that I thought I was going to be seeing today, but let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on these deleted scenes. Am I too praising of the plenty O'Toole material that was cut from the film? Like, is that rightfully cut and we just live with the plot hole, or do you agree with me that that scene should have absolutely been kept in? And what do you think of the other scenes, particularly the Winton Kid scene? I'm really curious to know how people feel about that. I know that there is something of a cult following for those characters, so I'm curious to know if anyone else got as much out of that scene as I did. Please do subscribe to this channel if you've enjoyed this video and want to stay up to date with the future uploads I will be making on this channel. Of course, everything James Bond and spy related. Below you can find links to my social media pages, including my Twitter and my Facebook and my Patreon page, so please do head over to those sites if you would like to follow or support me on any of those. And with all that being said, until next time, Bond fans, so long for now. I am actually kind of disappointed, though, that we didn't get any extra Charles.
It's just a jump to the left. With your hands on your hips.
Grey deleted material.